Welcome into the Ben Burnett Show. My name is Ben Burnett. One of my favorite things that I ever get to do is bring friends of the show, sponsors, people that make up the things that, contrast your daily life into the studio so that they can tell the story about who they are and where they've been. And my guest today is Andy McKoski. Andy, welcome in.
Well, thanks for having me.
Andy, as a patron of Chiringa, I felt a dutiful obligation to drag you in here because you guys have a restaurant in downtown Alpharetta that I think stands the test of time. Talk to me about the concept of Chiringa, and then we'll run through your story.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me. Chiringa. Chiringa means kite. And a lot of people in Alpharetta want to know what's the significance of the kite and why downtown Alpharetta. In 2014, I went on a little male Eat, Pray, Love trip as I was in the process of exiting from a previous business, and was fortunate enough to go to the southern coast of Spain for a month. And during that trip, I found a bunch of beach bars,
and that's it, guys. We will see you next time.
They found a bunch of beach bars, found a bunch of really good fresh seafood, but really, more invigorating vibes from the people that were serving them. Those beach communities in coastal Spain are just simple, and it was beautiful, and it was healthy. And so when I came back, from that trip, I was like, wow, I really need to bring that back into my daily life, right? And for me, I'm not the type of person that just does it in a diet. I was like, oh, cool, let's start a new business. So
it's that easy in the restaurant world.
I wish that it was. And sometimes I kick myself because the restaurant business, especially with what has been going on the national level with, pandemic and just economics in general, has been difficult. It's been difficult for a lot of people. When I got back, we made the transition to a beach community, moved down to Grayton Beach in Florida, and opened up the bigger.
It's world famous. We talk about it on pretty much every commercial we run.
Which one?
If you're getting ready for spring break or summer and you're headed down to 30A, go see my friend Andy at Grayton Beach.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I found a building down there that is across the street from the truly world famous Red Bar.
Oh yeah.
But we are a 9-iron from the Gulf of Mexico. Our dining room overlooks the Gulf, and the building was available. And what that community did for me was sort of kickstart my lifelong Spanish vacation, because Grayton, which is in the middle of 30A, is just very cool and very eclectic and has a bunch of different cool people. It's a little bit hard to get to and harder to park, but Chiringa spawned the next stage of my life on the restaurant side. Chiringa was the natural extension of that, right?
So we'll come back here. You are not shy. You were a Florida guy. Talk to me about growing up in South Florida and what got you interested in the restaurant business.
Yeah, man, I started working in restaurants when I was 15 years old. My mom's second husband owned a couple of nightclubs and steakhouses in South Florida. Mid 80s, early 90s.
You're a Miami guy.
I am a Miami guy. High school, Two Live Crew, Will to Power, all the bad music that is synonymous with Miami was the heartbeat of my life. Fortunately, you know, made a little bit of money, enough money to pay for school in Tallahassee, and got to move to Atlanta after school. But the restaurant business in Miami was vibrant in the late 80s.
I'd argue it still is today.
It goes through its peaks and valleys like everywhere else, but it was really vibrant. If you watch any of the documentaries on Netflix, Cocaine Cowboys, like the amount of development and the amount of cash that was going into the community, legal and probably unlegal, was coming over the bar. Now I will tell you that my skill set has always been bar out. I got fired from the kitchen probably 4 times before the age of 17. I did not like cooking.
You like the people.
I like the people. I like the energy. I like the hospitality. Honestly, I like the problem solving aspects of the customer service component of it. And there was no girls in the kitchen.
No, typically not.
So at least back then there weren't.
That got easy fast.
So I transitioned my bar work in Miami to bar work in Tallahassee, and worked at a place in Tallahassee called The First, which was an iconic campus-oriented bar. The inventor of Bladder Bust, which was a program that they would shut the doors. They would lock the doors at a certain time and pour free beer until somebody left or went to the bathroom, hence Bladder Bust.
Right. Is that down the street from Potbelly's?
Yeah, sort of, kind of, but Potbelly's is another great spot.
Whew. You want to talk about college bars around America? I know them. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the one that always sticks out to me about that town.
College bars should be historical landmarks, right? I mean, everybody who graduates has a story and has a memory, and that's important. Now, whether they're memories that you want to tell your children, that's left to be determined. But a lot of good skill sets that I picked up in those bartending days in South Florida.
Let me tell you, as a guy who did it in Birmingham at a high-end restaurant, I learned more about that. I would attribute that to that experience of waiting tables, customer service, figuring out who you want to be like was the most informative thing to my professional life, because when I was an elected official, I could knock on your door and I didn't give a shit. Because you learn how to deal with absolutely everybody and everything. And sometimes it's not good and sometimes it's fuck you, go away. But both of those things were they made me adaptable. And I'm a relatively intelligent, well-educated guy, but I will tell you, the dealing with people on a daily basis, I attribute 100% of that back to food service, 100% of it. Because if you get me on the phone, you always want to be cheery and, upbeat and make sure that somebody's enjoying their time. Because if they give you another 5% more and you turn 12 tables in a night, all of a sudden it's like having another table or two. And you're there for, to make sure that they enjoy themselves, but you're also there to sit there and kind of learn how the other half lives. That was the biggest thing that I loved about catering, fine dining, doing stuff like that. And you learn how to interact and you learn how to get in and get out of trouble.
Very true. I mean, the lessons, in hindsight, right? Because it's always about hindsight, right? The lessons that I learned early in hospitality definitely helped me get through college, right? So just the time management of serving and tending bar and learning how to do more with less, right? The efficiency pieces definitely helped me become a better studier. Definitely helped me just some of it in the human interaction side.
Oh yeah.
Right. Not judging people based on what they look like, right? It's a pretty simple, and that story for me is strictly financial. My best tipper every summer in South Florida was a guy who wore a white t-shirt, work boots, and dirty jeans. And he came after he was running his crew. And if I looked at him the first time, I was like, man, this guy's not going to give me $1. And he had stacks of hundreds. He was paid. And he didn't have a problem sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? He wanted a scotch after work, and he chose my bar one day. There's a good chance that he paid for 5 or 6 of my classes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Full board. And had I not changed my perspective, right, on that, man, I probably would have blown the guy off. So that lesson in itself, right, I think everybody should have to work a retail position.
Oh, yes.
Because it's horrible.
And people
sometimes.
Suck.
Some people suck.
Some enough people suck that sticks in your brain.
Well, with social media now, right? Those sucky moments get amplified, right? The good, the bad, everything. So I don't think that you used to know how bad people sucked before.
Yeah.
Right? Like you could hide it, right? You could hide road rage. Like, oh, I freaked out on the road and man, I feel really bad about that. That won't happen again. Well, now somebody's videotaping.
And you're there forever.
And you're forever. Every bad comment, which the bad comments are still the bad comments and there's no justifying them. But we've got to teach our kids these lessons earlier. The mistakes that I made in college, my 20-year-old can't make.
So I want to ask you, I want to shift gears. Yep. When and why do you move to Atlanta? Because you're a synonymous with Buckhead fellow. Yeah, I mean, when you and my buddy Bradley Jordan at the Dirty Triangle, you guys are the two, man. And Ace, if he's around somewhere,
yeah, Ace is around too. He's down on his farm working on a truck or a house or something. From Miami, made my way to Tallahassee. Tallahassee because it was the farthest spot from South Florida that I could still get home to if I needed to. That was in-state tuition. And it's relatively southern. Tallahassee should be annexed to Georgia, right? Because it's more South Georgia than it is Florida, right? Florida could be split up into 3 different states. The state of Miami. Well, South Florida, and then Orlando and Central Florida is a space unto itself. Yep. And then North Florida is probably a lot more like Thomasville, right? So got to Tallahassee, really, really pushed to lose a little bit of that South Florida in me and really fell in love with Southern culture. Honestly, Tallahassee, my first girlfriend in college was from Statesboro, Georgia. My second girlfriend in college was from Tallahassee. So I got acclimated to sweet tea and wraparound porches and big Spanish like oaks and like all those things that Deep South offers. Yeah. And I was, and the kindness, honestly, was the thing that was the big hook for me, was the fact that you could walk into a convenience store and people would ask you how your day was. Because that doesn't happen in South Florida. No. Right? Now, it's more New York. My wife and I have this argument all the time because she's from Montgomery. So I married a true Southern, and she is super sweet, like really sweet tea, like the nicest person. And I tried to get her to move back to Palm Beach County, and she wasn't having it. And she's like, well, these people, they're just so mean. And the argument always comes up, would you rather have somebody be fake nice or genuinely rude? Direct. Yeah. And the reality is, for me, I chose fake nice. Why wouldn't you, right? Somebody asks how your day is and, oh, it's good. And just go on about your business. Thank you. Thanks. And that's the thing that drew me to the South. And so after school, moved up to Atlanta with a 64-ounce Gatorade bottle full of quarters. That is all the money that I had to my name. So think it came out to be like $227.50.
What was the first thing you did in Atlanta? Because I want to get to what the vast majority of people in Atlanta know you from.
So the first thing I did was get a job. So if you can remember 1993 Atlanta, we'll start talking about iconic establishments. For me, Johnny's Hideaway is an iconic establishment.
It's still.
That was my first job in Atlanta.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
you're the only person I know that's ever worked there.
How
many 55-year-old women have you seen like try to pick up 28-year-old guys?
A lot, right? It doesn't, it's, they have they've cornered that market. So, but I was got a job bar backing at Johnny's Hideaway at the back bar for Joey and worked there a couple days a week. And then I got a job at Frankie's at the Prado, which was the sports bar, the best sports bar that I've ever been to, which is now a Taco Mac.
Right.
And man, I just sort of cycled myself into the hospitality of Atlanta and loved it. And that time in Atlanta was really exciting. Of course.
Did you ever go swing on the swing at Mako's?
Once a weekend, right? I mean,
that was before another Miami guy. That was before Ray Lewis ruined Buckhead for everybody forever.
He did, but we had in addition to Mako's, you had Lulu's, Bait Shack, right, and the fish bowls. We were just talking about that the other day. The original Tongue and Groove was there. Like there were so many Odyssey, Tutu Tango. Like it was we all, and I say we all, there was probably about 200 Florida State guys and girls that we know that came up this way because nobody really wanted to go back to Florida. And Atlanta with Turner and Home Depot, UPS, like there was so much opportunity on the corporate side that we didn't see in Florida. Like
sure.
If you want to get to
especially
Florida,
in rural Tallahassee, rural-ish.
Yeah, but Florida's hospitality, right? And tourism. So, if I really wanted to be in the restaurant or the hospitality business, then you go back to Florida and you can work for Ritz in Miami or Key Biscayne but if you wanted to be in corporate America and you wanted to sort of see if you had those chops, then you came to Atlanta or Birmingham or Charlotte. Like Charlotte was at the time was banking. So I settled on Atlanta and got a job and then started looking for a corporate job and got it. And ended up moving around the country a little bit for a while.
So I want to talk to you about how Tin Lizzy comes about. Because to me, if you gave me a restaurant that identified my 20s, I would say, which is about the best compliment I can give you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how that opportunity comes about. Because you're right across the street from Hal's.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. Everybody there knew my name.
Man, when we start talking about Tin Lizzy's, that was 2000 for me. It was 2006 to 2016. So that was 10 years of my life, and 10 probably the greatest years of my life. Happened like most great restaurant and most great things by accident to an extent. I was involved in another company that I got out of. Manufacturing barbecue grills and got out with the skin of my teeth and was looking for my next thing to do. Some friends of mine from college had bought in the Po' Boys that was there. We're getting ready to make the concept switch and honestly had made the concept switch to Tin Lizzy's and it wasn't doing well. And I remember driving home to South Florida for Thanksgiving and calling my buddy Chris Hatterman, who was from St. Pete, and said, "Hey man, what are you guys going to do with this?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't know.
Skillets and tacos."
Well, at the time it was being branded as an authentic taqueria, and I can remember because we used to go to Taqueria del Sol, which was Eclipse on Cheshire Bridge, and we would eat there all the time. And we were like, "Man, this would be so much better if they had beer and servers, but it was all counter service." And so that was part of the inception of that. I ended up buying out one of their partners who was left over from the po' boy side and sort of running the day to day on that. And it turned out to be a really, probably to date, one of the greatest things that I've done outside of family and, you know, my kids and whatnot. From a business perspective, the careers of the people that have worked for us who've gone on and done better things, from, you know, Atlanta United host Beth Keener worked for us, and she's going to be a powerhouse in real estate. The first employee we had, Blair Branch Huckabee, is a dynamic real estate agent. We've got a couple hair salons that have come out of it, got a bunch of attorneys. You know, at one point, you know, we started off with one store and about 12 employees. And then when I finished, we had 14 stores and over 1,000 employees.
One of the conversations I want to have with you is, so you have a successful exit from Tin Lizzy, which exists today. It's more franchised. It's more around Metro Atlanta, and I'm not sure if it's in other markets or not. But I want to ask you, one of the things as a guy who has divested businesses that to me, I didn't know until I walked through it, was that you get a check and your obligation is by and large finished. And for me, when I left some of them, I didn't realize how empty and purposeful-less I would feel. How was your experience getting out of something that is truly synonymous with Atlanta? And if you go down there at Roswell Road and, you know, it's still there, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still there and still does very, very well. That, as you know, my second venture is in Florida. And that scenario that you brought up, that exit, was the primary driver for that. Because when you do exit something that is regional, and you're in the hospitality business with so many contact points, everywhere you go, someone's asking you, hey, how's Tin Lizzy's? How's your past deal? On certain days, like we were talking about before, certain days your answers are very political and correct. And then on certain days, they're not. And that context sometimes can be damaging, right? So how's Tin Lizzy's? Oh, it's good. You know, I'm not involved anymore, but oh, why?
I'm happy for them.
Yeah. Like, oh, why? Are you really? And then you get into these conversations, and then somehow, so we just moved to Florida, and to sort of take ourselves out of
the daily,
to take ourselves out of the conversation for a minute so that I could breathe and try to get my head around that what is next, because you're 100% right. When you work 10 years to build something, and especially on, it's got to be in everything, but for me, especially in hospitality, there's so much of you invested that a paycheck doesn't pay for.
No, it is. Look, that part of it's great. I will never take anything away from anybody who's like, yeah, but I'll tell you, if it's 5 days or 10 days or 15 days or 30 days, you wake up at some point and think, what am I doing? What am I going to do next? Because we've had this conversation. I sat on the city council in Alpharetta for 4 years and had 6 months to really walk through that divorce process, so that the day I was done, I was really done. But I wouldn't kid you, it was a breakup.
Yeah.
And it was not an agonizing thing, but it also, one of the things I know about me is that I have 5-year runs with things. And I don't know what it is about me as a human being, but I can't give myself longer than that. And I don't know if that's a character flaw, that I can't be invested in it longer than 4 or 5 years, or if I'm running from something, or if I'm just afraid of ever feeling that way again. It's almost like there are 1 or 2 things that I will allow myself to be that close to for absolutely ever. And the rest of it, I can't get there.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that. that balancing act is something that I sort of struggle with now with the new venture, because I think that you see it if you look at anybody who's been ultimately successful from society's view, right? And then you go back and you read their biography, there's always some personal loss in there.
Oh, yeah.
Things they've given up, things they've missed, bad relationships with their children. So trying to balance that on my next ventures is something that I think about a lot. And it's that with Tin Lizzy's, it was every day, all day, right?
It was live.
My phone never turned off, right? We would work until 2:30 in the morning. I would get up at 8. I would be at the store at 9. I would work all day. I would take a nap. I would go back and do it again. And as we got busier,
that cost you something.
Yeah, like my hips are jacked, right? Like physically, it cost me. It cost me emotionally. It cost me. There's always a price to pay for that. The question that you bring up is like, what's that ROI, and what does it look like next? So that's my next ventures, right? I have really good partners, right? I have good partners and good management that I have structured it, and I've been through a lot of therapy that's sort of taught me to be a little bit more hands off. Right? But do you get the same results if you're hands off?
And we both know the answer to that question.
I know, but I think the adage is, if you can find somebody to do something 85% as good as you can,
take it,
right? And in my current situation, I have people that do it 90% as good as I do. The other 10% is nuance,
margin of error.
I
don't like that they did the books this way or ordered it this way on this day, and like, it's shit you can get over.
Yeah, it's a blue shirt or a red shirt.
Yeah,
right. Like, it's still a shirt. No shirt is wrong. If you have a shirt on, it's a good thing. You pick the color, and our store up here.
Let's get there, because I love your store up here.
Thank you. It's Alpharetta was a natural extension for me. My wife and I moved to the beach to get out of the Atlanta bubble, as we talked about, but never really had any intentions of staying there forever. The things that Atlanta has to offer, Atlanta Metro, events, concerts, food, right? For being, there's just a lot that this city, the pockets that this city has, right? The things that you can do. We can go 5 miles north from here and be looking at horses, right? There's golf courses everywhere. 30 minutes south, we can be at Piedmont Park, right? You can go into the Beltline, right? You can Stone Mountain. Like, there's just so much. And so when we decided to come back, Alpharetta was a spot.
What about that development when you were looking? Because Chiringa was up and running and successful.
Yes. When
you make the decision to come here, outside of everything else, what was it? Did you just see the vision for the downtown area and know that town green was your beach?
Once we saw it, yeah, and the demographics of Alpharetta, the vacationer at 30A. Right.
They live here.
25% of the population, 25% of 30A's business at one point in time was from North Atlanta. Right. So that's a big driver. When you're starting to connect the dots, it's really hard to be in the restaurant business and have locations that are 5.5 hours away. It's not really that hard when you have the same customers. So there's multiple faces that I see in the same week in 2 different locations.
That's awesome.
It is a great it's a great compliment.
How do you build that culture amongst I'll call it the fan base? How do you build that culture amongst your fan base? Because I can tell you what I think after you get done, but I'll tell you, and there's a handful of us that just gravitate to each other, whether it's the commonality of food service, because I'll be honest with you guys, When I walk into Chiringa and Lauren or Travis or Andy are working, I don't pay for my first beer ever,
Yeah.
ever, and never have. And I think you guys, but I'm not unique.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I sort of built. The first guy that I worked for in the hospitality business was an old school bartender named Scotty, and he was down in South Florida, and he was a retired Eastern Airline pilot. And this was 1988, and his MO was everybody gets a napkin. This is when you could smoke in bars, and there was only a half a cigarette butt in there. It was always cleaned and wiped. And if your drink got down to a quarter, it was always refilled. And that old school Johnny's Hideaway type of methodology, part of that methodology was, hey, man, if you see a friend of yours, you buy him a drink, right? Because that's what friends do for friends. And we had gotten to a cultural thing at Tin Lizzy's where I'd read a book. It was about the Ritz-Carlton. And the Ritz, their moniker or their motto internally is ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. When you walk into a Ritz and you walk into the front door, you
can tell.
Man, they hammer that. Well, as you know from hanging out at Tin Lizzy's, there weren't many ladies and gentlemen in that environment. But we were friends, and the moniker was friends serving friends, right? If you treat everybody like you want to be treated, then you don't really have to worry about all that other stuff. And that's one thing that I've tried to carry through in all of my brands, whether it's at the beach, in Alpharetta, whether I'm getting ready to do this coffee thing. It is always about inviting people into your space like it's your home. Right. So like for me, it's always been like, if I invite you over for a dinner party and you come early, do I lock the door and make you sit in the driveway?
Not usually.
There's restaurants that won't open the door for you.
Right.
Oh, we're not open yet, sir. Like, what do you mean? I'm here to spend money. Right. Now you can open the door and say, hey, look, we're not ready to be set up yet. You want to come in and grab a seat, man? We're still finishing up. Can I get you a water? Right? There is a way to do it that works. So Lauren Farber, Travis, Lauren Lenore, that not a really hard training exercise because that's who they are as people.
They are.
And that's what we try to do. We try to hire people that just get it.
One of my favorite things. One of your aforementioned Lawrence was my children's preschool teacher, and she was working at Taco Mac and served us after a city council meeting. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "I'm just making extra money." I was like, "You really want to make some extra money?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You need to go talk to Travis and Andy." And she still, I won't say it's every time I see her, she will never forget that because that was life-changing for her. And you guys treat people that way.
We it is reciprocal, you know, and unfortunately the hospitality industry has a very bad reputation for not being reciprocal, right?
Oh, yeah,
It's
no doubt.
It's a, hey, you get beat up and that's the way that we do it. And changing that paradigm is important if you want to be successful moving forward in multiple locations and create a culture. And that's one of the things that I learned from Tin Lizzy's, because as we got bigger, right, from one store, I think it was somewhere around store number 8, we lost control of the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really don't have a choice.
Well,
because if you can't be hands-on with 2, and you got to start giving up 15%. It's really hard to do that when you go with a force multiplier of 4 times that.
Well, so in that first Tin Lizzy's, we had a really, really good clientele.
Oh, yeah.
But
Me.
You, and then George McCarrow, who started Longhorn.
Yeah.
Bill Palmer, who started Applebee's. Sandy, who started Ruby Tuesday, where everybody was coming in, and these conversations I had were really cool. And most of them came down to this: man, you have the opportunity to make a lot of money. It's gonna suck. The money's good, but your brand is going to change.
Yep.
Right? Trying to evolve, it is almost impossible to keep that same energy and vibe. And I carry that with me, right? So one of the, everybody always asks about, Chiringa. I think Chiringa might be the first fast casual restaurant in downtown Alpharetta.
Let me just compliment you. If there's 30 restaurants within a half a mile of there, you were the only person, and I remember this plain as day when COVID broke out. You were the only person who called me and was like, dude, you know everybody. What do you think we need to do now to be as successful as we can be? Because nobody's ever walked through this. And you were talking about affordability and how to do it. And that's not an option that a lot of those places with 7,500 square feet have. And you guys were very particular about what space you took down and why. Because, man, you make hay when the sun shines, but the rain's going to find you.
Yeah. And so you asked me earlier about that space. That space was brought to me by my old architect with Tin Lizzie's, a group that was working with Sherry Morris, the original developer, because I was looking at the space next to Tin Lizzie's in Buckhead, which was the old Flip Burger space.
Yep.
And thought that I could develop that. And that deal started to go sideways. It was really too big in the parking. He's like, man, you really need to look at this spot. And we had already been looking at Alpharetta, but didn't know that it was an option, because I think originally Shake Shack might have been looking heavily at that space. Our space is about 500 square feet, too small.
Yeah, it's small, but it's awesome.
It is. We've definitely cut our teeth on trying to make that work, and it's not without challenge, right? Our ticket times in the kitchen run long. Like, people will complain, well, it's because our kitchen is so small for the amount of volume that we're doing. We just cannot handle the throughput. We knew that going into it. So part of that methodology is, here's a beer. Hey, here's a soda. Here's a King of Pops. Here's something. We are sorry. It's never our intention to take 30 minutes to deliver a fish sandwich, but a fish sandwich takes 12 minutes.
I want to compliment you on your culture in another way. So I've said for years I would go there when we would get out of a city council meeting at 6:45 or 7, and I didn't want to go home. I said that. And we would walk into Chiringa, and man, Charlie would be like, what do you want to listen to? And I was always, John Mayer, man, crank it up. And he'd play it as loud as I wanted to, because Monday nights are not your Friday, Saturday, Sunday when it's 75 degrees outside.
No.
But your culture of people is second to absolutely none. And for those of you at home who haven't been, one, you need to go and have a frosé. They're outstanding. But two, just how you are treated. But the people who work there are truly special. And I don't mean like they're truly special, like they're nice people that you see on the side of the road and wave. Like, dude, talk about Charlie, just a guy who lives there. Because I will tell you, the beautiful people of Alpharetta, and I am a very heterosexual male, this dude is beautiful.
Yeah, he is.
It's obnoxious. And women, I think women come there literally to look at Charlie.
We have Charlie's schedule was haphazard because Charlie is a male model, and Charlie would have to fly off to London to do a show. And when he would do stuff like that, there might have been an uproar. Like, where is Charlie? I'm here to see Charlie.
I've lived it. There's only one or two people that are like, where's Ben?
Yeah. No. Genuinely one of the kinder people, like just a good soul, blessed with really incredible looks, really cool vibe, not the ideal employee from an operational standpoint.
Yeah, his intangibles, man.
Intangibles were great.
They're off the chart.
I mean, literally text messages. Hey, I'm not coming back until Charlie starts working again. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't fly him back from London. Right? Like, it's not.
And so those of y'all who just think we're talking about somebody, and we are, Andy, tell him. Tell him what Charlie's doing with his life right now.
I would just go to People Magazine and Google Charlie Wilson and see who his latest love interest is.
I'll give you a hint. She has a brother, and they both have spent a lot of time on Dancing with the Stars. And if you can't figure it out from there, and let me tell you, like, that is not an ugly woman. He might be prettier. He might. That's totally what Carl's going to cut and lead with.
Yeah, it's he's good hair, tatted up,
college football player.
Yeah, I mean, that's him and Watts. Our opening team in that store, high energy personality. I just think the neighborhood is growing into that. With the number of restaurants that are opening, it is definitely more difficult to hire. We've managed to put together a great team. We were very blessed to have that opening team. The Farbers, Charlie, Watts, those guys really helped solidify us before COVID, right? And I think our size and flexibility during COVID really helped us, what we hope solidify our spot in the neighborhood. And then that turf.
You're welcome.
Was a game changer. Game changer.
I want to go inside baseball for a second. I was very much team grass.
Yeah.
If it worked, it'd be better. And I was one, but man, you guys bitched for years. Guys, my beach is a mud hole.
Can I be honest?
It's good for you.
You were wrong.
I will sit here today and tell you
100% wrong.
I get told I got told that quite a bit. I still get told that a lot.
The biggest driver of that green space is moms and kids
drinking frosés at 3:00 in the afternoon.
And the water feature. No mom wants to take their kid home to clean mud off their clothes every day of the week. So no mud, more moms. More moms, more frosé, happier business.
Hey, and I love you guys so much, and I was so sorry I went and got you a Christmas tree.
Oh, it was a great tree too. The reality of downtown Alpharetta is that it's evolving, right? We know that we're at the beginning of the curve there. What it's going to be is a monster of a community. The one thing, for as much as we wanted turf early on, our general MO was, man, we're just happy to be here, right? Like,
and you treat people that way.
And I mean, there are 1,000 situations that could have been worse. We want to be the best neighbor and tenant to the city that we could. You don't want to hear us complaining about the mud.
No.
So we didn't. So
you just tell me off the record.
Just off the record while you're drinking a beer, right? So
nothing's free. You take the free beer, they're going to tell you they want some turf.
But man, what a cool, vibrant community to be part of, right? Like, even I would tell you this from the service perspective, not the easiest customers to deal. No, I take it back. The expectations of Alpharetta are very high.
It's a super snooty place.
However, they are nice, even in their request. Everybody is genuinely pleasant, even when things don't go well, right? And there's times that we won't deliver their food in 60 minutes. And it's genuinely cordial, which I don't know if I would be cordial after 60 minutes. So could not be in a better situation.
What is next for you, Andy? You mentioned coffee shops earlier.
Yeah.
That's a haul from tacos and frosé.
Yeah. So tacos, tacos at Tin Lizzy's led into better tacos at Chiringa, right? So we went from frozen tilapia to fresh mahi and fresh grouper.
So good.
Yeah, man, if the prices would stop going down, we'd be able to put out some really, really good stuff. But the price of fresh fish right now is exorbitant. But we'll still keep trying.
People don't eat $30 for $5 lobster rolls.
No. So the next phase is trying to figure out, for me, is that brunch segment. Brunch right now is the hottest category in the country. My opportunity down at the beach, I've got 1,000 square feet on my building down there that has just been underutilized. And so I partnered this year with YOLO Board, the stand-up paddleboard company.
Oh, yeah.
So they're also making electric bikes.
They were on Shark Tank.
Yeah, they're Jeff and his partner Betsy are two really
and Mark Cuban.
You start yeah.
Jeff and Betsy and Mark.
Jeff and Betsy and Mark. Well, you start talking about culture, right? And their culture is upbeat and healthy, and they're accountable, right? So they were sort of very loosely right now concepting a coffee, brunch, breakfast, bike rental, board rental, activity center type concept.
There's not a lot of surfing on 30A.
But there is a lot of paddleboarding.
Not unless the storm's blowing, and I used to be one of those guys when I was in college.
The biggest segment of their business that's growing right now is the electric bike segment. Electric bikes are like, if you drive your car from Rosemary down to Grayton, probably take you an hour during the season. You can do it in 18 minutes on an electric bike.
Yeah.
So getting around our community down there is a big segment. The natural reaction for them is to want to move to the bigger markets. So we'll do it down in Grayton, and then look at Atlanta, and then potentially Nashville. And the same thing that we want to do with Chiringa. Travis and I are talking about looking at other locations right now.
Where are you looking? Everybody's dying to know.
I don't know.
You want me to tell you where you need to go?
Please.
I really don't even know. It'd be hard to say. The demographics are good, really good up here, but they change in different ways, and I don't think you want to lose that. I think you have to be super selective.
I think 100%. Like the real estate selection part is the trick, especially for the second location, is one of the trickier things to do, right? With Tin Lizzy's, our second location should have been a disaster because we took over the old 6 feet under space in Grant Park. Nobody in Grant Park wanted anything to do with a Buckhead concept. Like, it was hard work explaining to those people that, hey, we just want to make sure you get your beer and give you some tacos. There was a stigma associated with that. So
you get it here too.
You get it here.
You will learn if you go to Cherokee County or Forsyth or any of those, and you try to take it north where the demographics, and I don't say it disingenuously or in a mean way, but like aren't as good. It's like, where's your location? It's like, we're at Grayton and Alpharetta. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. And it's like, I don't want to say inferiority complex because that's probably not right, but it is genuinely, there's a prejudicial bias against this area for sure.
I think that over the last couple of years, we've figured out that everybody wants to be part of a set, right?
Yeah.
Like it's important to have a tribe, right? And the restaurants, because of the social communal nature of them, work into the fabrics of those tribes. And you can be successful. The Tin Lizzy's at Buckhead had a different tribe than the Tin Lizzy's at Grant Park, and you could see it in the employees. Tin Lizzy's Midtown had a different set. When you look just as far as here, Central City, right? Tavern has a different set than the Chiringa set. Like it. So we start to segment ourselves a little bit. So that next selection has got to be really critical for us. We feel, it's hard to want to open. I would tell you that we thought that selection would be easier coming out of COVID. Not the case.
Yeah.
Even on the commercial side, real estate, very expensive.
Well, for what you want to do with an outside concept, I mean, you're paying for the space that you're not necessarily paying for.
Yeah, and that was a situation that is completely beneficial to us, right? You don't get that situation very often, but you'd be surprised how many leads I get, and people. I'm like, okay, well, how much outside seating do you have? Like, oh, none.
Yeah.
Oh, it's completely inside. It's
probably not going to work.
Have you seen our concept?
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that selection, that's a full-time job. Right. So I think that we'll start to pop another location maybe in 2023. Right. Like I think we want to get through 2022.
All right. Give me 2 or 3 spots where you're looking.
I think probably somewhere up on the top end of the, top side of 285.
Cumberland, over by the Battery.
Battery's tough.
Yeah.
There's some really good restaurateurs that haven't done so well over there.
But the demographics within 500 feet are challenging.
Demographics within 500 feet, but highway access and the activity around the Braves is good, right? It just depends on the rent number. Dunwoody, Chambly, Brookhaven is a very hot market. It's probably neck and neck with Alpharetta demographic wise.
It's grittier.
It is grittier, but it's in town.
Yeah,
right?
It's in town.
But it's in town with a lot of the same palette. So that's cool. A lot of those guys are looking. There's a lot of people there that are looking at Alpharetta right now. And the cool thing is that, they're making house swaps, right? Because the price of real estate up here, they're going to sell the house, but they thought they were going to make a bunch of money, and then they're moving up here going, oh my God, I'm not going to make that much money.
It's the same.
It's the same, which is cool. Everybody talks about the Beltline. So that's our west side.
That real estate's outrageous.
Man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The question is it worth it given the other variables that you have to, that are around, right? So, I mean, who knows? We just got to see what comes up.
Well, Andy, you and Travis and the Laurens and the Charlies are good friends. And I want to thank you for jumping on early. When I asked you to sponsor my show, we didn't say anything. You were like, yeah, man, just let me know. Send me a bill. And, I love people that work like that feel like they derive value and do things with people that they like because they like them. And to me, you guys have the quintessential, can you eat a fancier meal somewhere else? Sure. But you can't eat a fancier meal and then take your 3-year-old to the fountain. And you have cornered the real estate there. So I just appreciate your friendship, and Travis, who I've had on previously. You guys are really as good as it gets. So if you get a chance, get down to Chiringa, going to 30A down on Grayton Beach, hit up the sister restaurant, Chiringa, have yourself a frosé. There's nothing better.